You picked the wrong black woman to harass today. General Aurora Miles's voice remains steady as Officer Cole twists her arm behind her back. Metal cuffs snap around her wrists too tight, drawing blood. Talking back to an officer. Captain Riker looms over her. That's how people like you end up with problems. Miles memorizes his badge number, his name tag, the mole above his left eyebrow. Check her for weapons, Wilson commands. Harris jabs her ribs during the search, finds her wallet, keys, phone. He tosses them into an evidence bag. Something funny, Wilson demands when he notices her calm expression. Miles says nothing. They miss the Militera communicator hidden in her jacket lining. Get her in the car, Wilson barks. A night in holding should fix that attitude. They shove her head down, forcing her into the cruiser. They have no idea who they've just arrested. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The processing room smells of sweat and cleaning chemicals. Miles stands perfectly still for her mugshot. The camera clicks. The booking officer doesn't look up from his computer. Aurora Miles. She provides her Willow Avenue address. The officer pauses, eyes narrowing. That's in Eastwood Heights. His tone changes, recognizing the predominantly black neighborhood. Miles presses her thumb against the fingerprint scanner. Black ink stains her skin. Behind her, Officers Wilson and Harris laugh by the water cooler. Another one from that neighborhood thinking she's special, Harris says, voice carrying deliberately, acting like the checkpoint doesn't apply to her. Had to put her in her place, Wilson replies. These people need to learn. Miles memorizes every word, every inflection, every face watching her processing. Phone call? She asks the booking officer. He points to the wall phone. One call. Make it count. Miles dials a number from memory. Not her lawyer, not family. Operations Center Pentagon, answers a crisp voice. Authorization code Tango Delta 794. Miles speaks clearly. Initiating protocol oversight Delta. Location transmitting. A moment of silence. Confirmed. General Miles response team deploying. Timeline 43 minutes. Miles hangs up as Councilman Grant Ellison storms into the station. His expensive suit and championship ring gleam under the harsh lights. Another troublemaker? Ellison demands, looking through the glass at Miles. Wilson nods. Just processing her now, sir. Good, Ellison says. These checkpoint resistors need consequences. The program is too important. Miles is escorted to a holding cell. The door clangs shut. She sits on the metal bench, back straight, face composed. The clock on the wall reads 9:17 p.m. In exactly 43 minutes, everything will change. 2 hours earlier, sunset paints the sky orange over Eastwood Heights. General Aurora Miles drives her modest sedan through familiar streets. The neighborhood transitions from predominantly black to the wealthier, whiter suburbs of Brookhaven. Blue lights flash ahead. Police cruisers block the road. A checkpoint. Miles slows. Window already rolling down. She's done nothing wrong. This should take seconds. Officer Cole approaches. Flashlight beams sweeping across her face. License and registration. Miles reaches slowly for her glove compartment. May I ask what this checkpoint is for, officer? Harris stiffens. Just routine ID now. She hands over her driver's license. Harris studies it, flashlight lingering on her address. Eastwood Heights resident, he says into his radio, requesting additional verification. Miles notices his emphasis on her neighborhood. Is there a problem with my identification, officer? Wait here. Harris walks back to the cruiser, license in hand. Miles watches through her rear-view mirror. Harris shows her license to another officer. They both look at her car, laughing. Captain Riker emerges from the command vehicle. Harris points at Miles's car. Wilson nods, approaching with deliberate slowness. Step out of the vehicle. His tone carries no respect with the formality. May I ask why? My license is valid. Step out now. Wilson's hand rests on his holster. We're implementing enhanced search protocol. Miles knows her rights. Enhanced search requires reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. What's your suspicion, Captain? Wilson's face hardens. Out of the car. Miles complies. Movements deliberate. I'd like to note that this appears to be selective enforcement. We decide what's selective, Wilson says. Hands on the hood. I decline consent to search my vehicle without probable cause, Miles states calmly. Terry versus Ohio and Delaware v. Prowse establish clear guidelines for, look at the lawyer here, Harris mocks, moving closer. Thinks she knows the law. Miles stands her ground. I'm familiar with my Fourth Amendment rights. Wilson steps closer. Your kind always want to make things difficult. My kind? Miles raises an eyebrow. Troublemakers, Wilson clarifies, but his meaning hangs transparent in the air. Other drivers watch from their cars, some record with phones. Wilson notices, gesturing to another officer. Clear these vehicles through. No recordings. Miles observes Officer Davis approaching cars, making people put phones away. She commits each face to memory, each badge number, each license plate. Last chance, Wilson says. Consent to search or face obstruction charges. I respectfully decline and request a supervisor, Miles says. Her voice remains steady, professional. I am the supervisor. Wilson signals to Harris. Detain her. Harris grabs Miles's arm, twisting it behind her back. The pain shoots through her shoulder. Stop resisting, Harris shouts, though she isn't resisting. I'm not resisting, Miles says clearly, aware of creating an audio record. I'm complying under protest. Wilson steps closer. You don't tell us how to do our jobs. Miles notices Harris's body camera. The red recording light blinks off. Your body camera appears to be malfunctioning, Officer Cole, she notes. Mind your own business. Harris tightens his grip. Miles's military training kicks in. She could disable both officers in seconds. But that's not why she's here. Not tonight's mission. I'll be filing a formal complaint, she says instead. Wilson laughs. Good luck with that. Councilman Ellison personally oversees checkpoint operations. Your complaint goes straight to his trash can. Miles's watch presses against her wrist. The Militera device captures every word, every admission. Evidence gathering continues. Search the car. Wilson orders another officer. Sir, without a warrant, Miles begins. We have checkpoint authority under City Ordinance 27-9. Wilson interrupts. Signed by the council last month. Miles knows the ordinance, knows its constitutional flaws, knows exactly who pushed it through. Find anything? Wilson calls to the officers searching her car. Clean, Sir. Wilson seems disappointed. Check under the seats. These Westfield people always hiding something. Miles's fingers discreetly press a button on her watch. The GPS tracker activates. Pentagon systems now monitor her location in real time. Nothing, sir, the officer reports. Wilson turns back to Miles. Well, you're still interfering with a lawful checkpoint. That's obstruction. Citing constitutional protections is not obstruction, Miles counters. And now arguing with an officer. Wilson nods to Harris. Cuff her. The metal cuffs bite into her wrists. Harris secures them too tight deliberately. Aurora Miles, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice and resisting a lawful checkpoint inspection. Wilson recites satisfaction in his voice. Miles notices a young woman in a nearby car recording discreetly. Their eyes meet briefly. Miles gives an imperceptible nod. You have the right to remain silent, Wilson continues. I'm aware of my Miranda rights, Captain Miles interrupts. I assume you're transporting me to the Brookhaven station. Wilson pauses, thrown by her composure. That's right. I'll need my phone call when we arrive. You'll get what we decide to give you, Harris says, shoving her toward the cruiser. As they lead her away, Miles glances at the checkpoint. Officer Keene turns away another Eastwood Heights resident for additional screening. 3 cars with white drivers pass through without stopping. Pattern established. Evidence accumulating. Harris pushes her head down, forcing her into the back seat. Officer Cole, badge number 4572. That use of force is unnecessary and excessive. Miles states for her watch's recording. Shut up, Harris snaps, slamming the door. Through the window, Miles watches Wilson speaking with another officer. He gestures toward Eastwood Heights, laughs. The cruiser pulls away from the checkpoint. Miles sits calmly in the back, mentally reviewing the Pentagon protocol she's just activated. The situation is proceeding exactly as anticipated. The interrogation room at Brookhaven Station smells of stale coffee and floor cleaner. A single overhead light casts harsh shadows. The metal table is bolted to the floor. Miles sits straight back in the uncomfortable chair. Her handcuffs remain tight. 2 hours have passed since her arrest. The door opens. Captain Riker enters carrying a thin folder and Miles's confiscated belongings. He drops them on the table. Comfortable. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Miles doesn't respond. The less she says, the more they reveal. Wilson opens the folder. Aurora Miles, Westfield Heights address. No priors. He looks up. First time being educated about checkpoint compliance. I'd like to speak with an attorney. Soon enough, Wilson circles the table. We're just having a conversation first. I invoke my right to counsel. Miles's voice remains level, precise. Wilson ignores her. See, we have a problem in this town. People who don't respect authority. People who think rules don't apply to them. He leans against the wall, studying her. Checkpoints keep Brookhaven safe. Some folks don't like being checked. Those folks usually have something to hide. Miles remains silent. Her military training included resistance to interrogation techniques. Wilson's amateur intimidation tactics wouldn't break a first-year cadet. Nothing to say. Wilson flips through her wallet. Interesting ID you've got here. He pulls out her military ID, studies it, snorts. Marine Corps General, for stars. He tosses it on the table. Nice fake. Adding impersonating military personnel to your charges. Miles watches him carefully. That identification is authentic. Wilson laughs. And I'm the Secretary of Defense. His phone buzzes. He checks the screen, nods slightly. Our concerned citizen is here, Wilson says, moving to the door. Someone wants to meet the latest checkpoint troublemaker. Miles's photographic memory catalogs every procedural violation, every failed Miranda compliance, every civil rights infringement. Wilson leaves. Through the thin walls, Miles hears a new voice. Authoritative, impatient. Another one from that neighborhood. The voice must belong to Councilman Ellison. Yes, Sir, Wilson responds. Gave us the usual constitutional speech. Had a fake military ID too. Military? Ellison sounds interested. What branch? Marines. Claims to be a general. Wilson's laugh carries through the wall. Get what you need and process her. Ellison says, make an example. These checkpoint resistors are undermining the whole program. Miles notices the one-way glass. Feels Ellison watching from the other side. The door opens again. Wilson returns with Officer Cole. Let's try again. Wilson slaps a form on the table. Sign this confession to obstruction. Take a misdemeanor charge and you'll be out by morning. Miles studies the document without touching it. I'll need my attorney present before signing anything. Harris steps forward. Captain asked you nicely. And I respectfully declined. Miles replies. Wilson nods to Harris, who moves behind Miles's chair. His presence meant to intimidate. You people from Eastwood Heights think you're special, Wilson says. Think the rules don't apply, but Councilman Ellison's checkpoint program has cut crime in Brookhaven by 30%. By targeting specific neighborhoods, Miles asks. Wilson's expression hardens. By enforcing the law where it needs enforcing. Selective enforcement isn't legal enforcement, Miles says. Harris places heavy hands on her shoulders. You should listen to the captain. Miles doesn't react to the physical intimidation. I believe this interview is over until my counsel arrives. Wilson collects her belongings, intentionally dropping her military ID on the floor. He steps on it as he walks around the table. This little military costume doesn't impress me. He sneers, picking up the ID, though I admire the attention to detail. For stars. Ambitious fake. He tosses the ID back on the table. Harris increases pressure on Miles's shoulders. We've got all night, Wilson says. Plenty of time for you to reconsider that signature. A sharp knock interrupts. The door opens immediately. Detective Noah Mercer stands in the doorway. His expression shifts from professional to confused as he takes in the scene. "Captain," Mercer says carefully. A moment outside. Wilson hesitates, then nods to Harris. "Watch her." The door closes behind them. Through the wall, Miles hears urgent whispers. The conversation grows heated. Someone knocks urgently on the interrogation room door. The door opens. Detective Mercer enters, followed by a visibly agitated Captain Riker. Mercer, mid-30s with observant eyes, carries himself differently than the other officers. His badge hangs from a chain around his neck. His suit, while department issue, fits properly. "Officer Cole, you're needed at the front desk," Mercer says. Harris looks to Wilson, who nods reluctantly. Harris leaves, closing the door firmly behind him. Mercer approaches the table. He picks up Miles's military ID, examining it closely. "Captain, this ID has proper security features," Mercer says. "The holographic seal, microprinting, UV watermarks, all authentic military issue." Wilson scoffs. "It's a good fake." "No," Sir Mercer places the ID gently on the table. "I served before joining the department. This is genuine." Wilson's confidence wavers momentarily. "So, she stole a military ID. Add it to the charges." Miles watches the dynamic between them. Mercer represents something rare. Integrity within a corrupted system. "Ma'am." Mercer addresses Miles directly. "May I ask your name and rank?" "General Aurora Miles, United States Marine Corps." Mercer straightens instinctively. Military bearing doesn't fade with time. "And what brings you to Brookhaven, General?" Mercer asks. Before Miles can answer, Wilson interrupts. "Detective, she's being processed for obstruction and checkpoint evasion. Her occupation is irrelevant." "Sir, if she's active military, we have jurisdictional protocols to follow." Mercer counters. Wilson steps closer to Mercer. "I'm handling this case." "Captain, department policy requires verification of military credentials." Mercer persists. "Section 14 of our procedural manual specifically states." "I know the manual." Wilson snaps. "Then you know we're already in violation of proper procedure." Mercer doesn't back down. "No attorney present despite request." Continued questioning after Wright's invocation. Extended detention without processing. Wilson's jaw tightens. "Detective, remember your place." "My place is ensuring department procedures are followed," Mercer replies evenly. He turns back to Miles's ID, examining the rank insignia. His eyes widen. "Sir," Mercer whispers, "these are 4 stars." "So, 4 stars is the highest rank in the Marine Corps." Mercer looks at Miles with new understanding. There are only a handful in the entire military. Wilson's confidence cracks further. It's still a fake. The interrogation room door swings open. Councilman Ellison enters without knocking. His tailored suit and signate ring project authority and wealth. "Captain, what's the delay?" Ellison demands. "I thought this was routine processing." His eyes fall on Miles. He assesses her with practiced political calculation. "Councilman Ellison," Mercer says, "we have a situation. This woman appears to be a high-ranking military officer." Ellison scoffs. "Based on what?" "Military identification consistent with a Marine Corps general," Mercer explains. "We need to verify through proper channels before proceeding." "Detective, isn't it?" Ellison checks Mercer's nameplate. "Your concern for procedure is noted. Now, let the captain handle this." Mercer stands his ground. "Sir, with respect, if we've detained a military general improperly, the department faces serious repercussions." Ellison emphasizes, a remarkably big if. He turns to Wilson. "Captain, handle the paperwork and process her." "Detective Mercer, you're needed elsewhere." "Sir," Mercer protests. "Standard protocol requires." "Standard protocol is what I say it is." Ellison interrupts. "The checkpoint program operates under special city ordinance." "My ordinance." Miles watches Mercer carefully. She sees the moment his professional ethics confront political reality. "Councilman," Mercer says carefully, "may I at least verify her identity through military channels?" "A simple phone call." Ellison studies Mercer. "You're new to Brookhaven, aren't you, detective? Transferred 6 months ago, sir. Then let me explain how things work here. Ellison steps closer. The checkpoint program is essential to Brookhaven's safety and property values. Occasional complaints are expected. They're handled quietly and quickly. By violating rights, Mercer asks. Ellison's smile turns cold. By maintaining order. Don't overthink your role, detective. The phone on the wall suddenly rings. All three turn toward it. Wilson answers. Captain Riker. He listens, frowning. What kind of call? His expression shifts from annoyance to confusion. From where? Wilson's face pales slightly. He hangs up. What is it? Ellison demands. Front desk has received calls asking about a General Taylor. Wilson says slowly. From whom? Ellison asks. Wilson swallows. The Pentagon. The room falls silent. Ellison and Wilson exchange glances. Probably her friends playing games. Ellison dismisses. Captain, finish processing. And sir, Wilson interrupts. They mentioned her by name and rank. They knew she was here. Ellison turns to Miles, reassessing. Mercer's eyes widen at the 4 stars on her ID card. Sir, do you realize who we've arrested? Ellison silences him with a gesture. Captain, verify this properly now. Wilson exits quickly. Ellison studies Miles with new caution. If you are military, Ellison says, you should understand the importance of security checkpoints. I understand constitutional rights, Miles replies. And selective enforcement. Ellison's political smile returns. General, if that's what you are, surely we can resolve this misunderstanding amicably. The phone rings again. Wilson answers from outside. His voice carries through the door. Yes, sir, yes, she's here. Oh, sir. I understand, sir. Ellison watches the door with growing concern. Wilson returns visibly shaken. That was Colonel Rowan Blake from the Pentagon Military Police. They've confirmed her identity. Excellent, Ellison recovers quickly. Then release the general immediately with our apologies for the misunderstanding. There's more, Wilson says quietly. They're sending representatives here now. Ellison's political mask slips. What representatives? A military investigation unit. Wilson says they specifically mentioned your checkpoint program. Sir Ellison turns to Miles. Understanding dawn in his eyes. This wasn't a coincidence. He realizes your presence at the checkpoint. Miles meets his gaze steadily. The station's front desk phone begins to ring. The persistent ringing echoes through the station. Multiple lines now. Phones lighting up across desks. Ellison moves to the interrogation room door, closing it firmly. His political composure cracks further. What exactly is happening here? He demands. Miles remains silent. Her mission doesn't require explanation. Wilson's radio crackles. Captain, we have multiple incoming calls. Pentagon, DOJ, Governor's Office. Handle it, Ellison snaps. Sir, Wilson responds. They're specifically asking about General Miles. Mercer watches this exchange with growing awareness. He moves closer to Miles. Would you like those handcuffs removed, General? He asks quietly. Ellison glares at him. Detectives step back. Sir, she's been confirmed as a military general. Mercer argues. Continuing to detain her is my decision. Ellison interrupts. He points at Miles. Whatever game you're playing ends now. Miles finally speaks. This isn't a game, Councilman. It's an investigation. Investigation, Ellison laughs, but uncertainty edges his voice. Into what? Systematic civil rights violations through discriminatory checkpoint practices, Miles states. Targeting minority neighborhoods, violating Fourth Amendment protections, implementing quotas based on race and district. Ellison's face hardens. Ridiculous accusations. Documented accusations. Miles corrects. Wilson's radio crackles again. Captain, military vehicles approaching the station. Ellison's political calculation visibly shifts to self-preservation. He turns to Wilson. Release her now. Claim miscommunication. Blame the officers who made the arrest. Wilson hesitates. Sir Harris followed your checkpoint protocols exactly. Then blame the protocols. Ellison hisses. Just contain this. Mercer steps forward, removing a small key from his pocket. He unlocks Miles's handcuffs. "My apologies, General," he says formally. Ellison watches this with growing alarm. "Detective, prepare the necessary paperwork for the General's immediate release." Mercer nods, but makes no move to leave. "Now, Detective," Ellison insists. In a moment, Sir Mercer turns to Miles. "General, may I ask what happens next?" Miles rubs her wrists where the cuffs bit into her skin. "Justice happens next, Detective Mercer." Ellison laughs nervously. A simple misunderstanding doesn't require such dramatics. 6 months of documented civil rights violations isn't a misunderstanding, Miles replies. Mercer looks between them. 6 months? Miles nods. The Pentagon has been monitoring Brookhaven's checkpoint program since its implementation, gathering evidence, building a case. She checks her watch. And now that case is complete. Wilson's radio crackles once more. "Captain, 3 black SUVs have entered the parking lot. Military personnel disembarking." Ellison moves to the door. "I need to make some calls." "Your calls won't help," Councilman Miles says. "This investigation has federal oversight." Ellison's hand freezes on the doorknob. The political mask shatters completely. Mercer steps closer to Miles. He discreetly slides a USB drive across the table. "Internal Affairs has been looking into the checkpoint program," he whispers. "But we kept hitting roadblocks. Administrative obstruction. Evidence of direct interference?" Miles asks quietly. Mercer nods. "Everything I could gather. Checkpoint locations, arrest demographics, internal communications." "It's time, General," he whispers. The interrogation room door swings open. A military officer in full dress uniform enters, followed by 2 MPs. The Silver Eagle insignia identifies him as Colonel Rowan Blake. Colonel Rowan Blake surveys the room, his gaze stopping on Miles. "General Miles," he salutes crisply. "Colonel." Miles returns the salute. "Thank you for the prompt response." "Of course, ma'am." Jackson turns to the others. "I'm Colonel Rowan Blake, Pentagon Investigative Services. These are my associates." Ellison steps forward, political smile reinstated. "Councilman Grant Ellison, Brookhaven City Council. This has been an unfortunate misunderstanding." "Sir," Jackson interrupts. "Please remain in the station. My team will have questions for you shortly." Ellison's smile falters. "Questions? I assure you, I had no knowledge of the General's improper detention." "Noted," Jackson says without inflection. He turns to Wilson. "Captain, secure this room for the General's use. We'll need your main conference room for our team." Wilson hesitates. "Colonel, this is a police station. You don't have jurisdiction. I have direct authorization from the Secretary of Defense." Jackson cuts him off. "Your cooperation is not optional." The station fills with activity. Military personnel set up equipment in the conference room. Computer specialists access the station's systems. Evidence collection teams secure records. Ellison watches with growing alarm. This response seems excessive for a simple detention issue. Miles stands, straightening her civilian clothes. "This isn't about my detention, Councilman. It's about what my detention represents." She turns to Colonel Rowan Blake. "Status report. Teams deployed as ordered, General. Evidence preservation protocols in effect. Pentagon liaison briefing the governor now." Ellison attempts to leave. 2 MPs politely but firmly direct him back. "This is outrageous," he protests. "I have rights." "Yes," Miles agrees. "Everyone does." That's precisely the point. Miles and Jackson move to the conference room, now transformed into a command center. Digital displays show checkpoint locations throughout Brookhaven, all strategically positioned between Eastwood Heights and wealthy neighborhoods. Mercer follows, carrying case files. "General, I've brought the internal documentation you requested." "Thank you, Detective," Miles says. "Your assistance is invaluable." Ellison and Wilson are escorted in, directed to seats away from each other. Harris joins them, confusion evident on his face. Miles stands at the head of the table. The room falls silent. "Gentlemen," she begins. 6 months ago, the Pentagon received multiple complaints about a police checkpoint program targeting minority neighborhoods in Brookhaven. Initial review suggested Fourth Amendment violations. Further investigation revealed something more disturbing. She activates the main display. A map appears showing checkpoint arrest statistics. Red dots cluster exclusively in minority neighborhoods. Selective enforcement. Miles continues. Checkpoint stops resulting in searches, 89% minority drivers. Arrests from those stops, 94% minority citizens. Wilson shifts uncomfortably. Crime statistics justify deployment. Traffic violations occur at equal rates across demographics. Miles interrupts. Yet your checkpoint program produced these results. She changes the display. Internal police emails appear. Captain Riker, this is your message to officers dated March 12. Focus on vehicles from Eastwood Heights. Higher yield for arrests. Wilson pales. That's taken out of context. Context is provided by your arrest quotas, Miles replies, displaying another document, specifically targeting Eastwood Heights residents. Ellison interrupts. General, these operational details were handled by the police department. As councilman, I merely approved the program concept. Miles turns to him. Is that so? She nods to Colonel Rowan Blake, who displays a new document. Ellison's signature appears at the bottom of detailed checkpoint operating procedures. This directive specifies targeting specific neighborhoods. Miles notes. Your signature authorizes racial profiling. Councilman Ellison's political facade cracks completely. This is a witch hunt. This is accountability. Miles corrects. She turns to Mercer. Detective, please share what you found during your internal investigation. Mercer steps forward. 6 months ago, I noticed troubling patterns in checkpoint arrests. When I raised concerns through proper channels, I was reassigned. I continued documenting discrepancies. He opens his file. Checkpoint officers were instructed to use different standards based on driver's race and residence. Eastwood Heights vehicles received heightened scrutiny regardless of driving behavior. Wilson interrupts. That's not your body cam footage contradicts you, Captain Miles says. She plays a video. Wilson appears instructing officers before a checkpoint deployment. Remember, Westfield cars get the full treatment. Make the stop stick. Ellison stands abruptly. I need to contact my attorney. You'll have that opportunity, Miles assures him. After we complete this interview, she slides a folder across the table. These are just from the last 6 months. Captain Riker's face drains of color as he opens the file. The investigation continues into the night. Military personnel process evidence. Technical teams analyze department servers. Legal advisors document violations. In a quiet corner of the conference room, Miles finds Mercer reviewing files. Detective, she says, joining him. Your assistance has been crucial. Mercer looks up, exhaustion etched on his face. I should have done more sooner. You did what you could within a corrupt system, Miles says. That takes courage. Mercer closes the file. When I transferred to Brookhaven, I had no idea. The checkpoint program was already established, presented as innovative community policing. When did you realize the truth? Miles asks. Mercer hesitates, pain flashing across his features. 3 months ago, he finally says, my brother came to visit. He was stopped at a checkpoint, detained for hours. No charges, just intimidation. He stares at his hands, stares at he's a pediatric surgeon, drives a nice car, but they only saw a black man in the wrong neighborhood. Miles finishes. Mercer nods. I filed complaints, used proper channels, evidence disappeared, witnesses changed statements. The system protected itself. That's why I'm here, Miles says. Sometimes the system needs external pressure to change. Why you specifically? Mercer asks, why did the Pentagon send a 4-star general for a local police investigation? Because some issues transcend jurisdiction, Miles explains. Civil rights violations impact national security, erode public trust, undermine the Constitution we're all sworn to protect. Mercer absorbs this. What happens to the officers to Ellison? Justice, Miles says, simply due process. The same rights they denied others. And the people they wrongfully arrested, the lives they damaged. Part of the remedy includes case reviews, expungements, compensation. Miles meets his eyes. Your brother's case will be among them. Mercer wipes his eyes quickly. This isn't just about today, is it, General? No, she answers. It's about every day before this and every day that comes after. Mercer straightens, professional composure returning. What's our next step? Evidence compilation, Miles says. Your testimony will be crucial before the federal grand jury. I'm ready, Mercer affirms. For the first time since her arrest, Miles smiles. I know. Dawn breaks over Brookhaven Police Station. The parking lot fills with government vehicles. FBI agents join military investigators. Justice Department attorneys arrive with subpoenas. Inside the conference room, the atmosphere shifts from investigation to prosecution. Evidence boards cover the walls. Computer screens display data analyses. Legal teams prepare documents. Captain Riker sits alone, separated from his officers. Ellison's attorney arrived hours ago, whispering urgent advice ignored by his client. Colonel Rowan Blake enters with a new team. General, the Secretary of Defense sends his regards. The investigation has been elevated to Joint Task Force status. Miles nods. Excellent. Let's proceed with the full briefing. The room fills with senior officials, military, federal, state. The governor's representative sits near the Attorney General's deputy. Miles takes position at the head of the table. The room falls silent. Ladies and gentlemen, she begins. What started as a civil rights monitoring operation has revealed systematic constitutional violations and abuse of power. Today, I present comprehensive evidence in 3 categories: visual documentation, audio recordings, and written records. She activates the main display. First, visual evidence. Dash cam footage appears. A vehicle from Eastwood Heights stopped at a checkpoint. The driver, professional, polite, is ordered from the car without cause. Search conducted without consent. When he questions the legality, he's arrested for obstruction. This pattern repeats across hundreds of documented stops, Miles explains. She shows split-screen footage. White drivers pass through checkpoints with cursory checks. Black drivers from Eastwood Heights face extended detentions, searches, and frequent arrests. Checkpoint camera systems captured clear racial disparities in enforcement. Miles continues, white drivers were stopped at 8% frequency, black drivers at 82%. Ellison interrupts. Selective editing can create false patterns. These are your department's unaltered recordings, Councilman, Miles replies. Complete timestamps intact. She displays a heat map of checkpoint placements. Checkpoints were exclusively positioned to intercept residents leaving minority neighborhoods, particularly Westfield Heights. Wilson shifts uncomfortably. Strategic deployment based on traffic patterns was contradicted by your own traffic study. Miles interrupts, displaying the document which recommended different locations entirely. She moves to a new screen. Second category, audio evidence. Miles activates an audio file. Wilson's voice fills the room. Councilman wants more arrests from Westfield. Make it happen. Officer Cole responds, even without cause. Wilson. Find cause. Broken tail light. Failure to signal. Get them out of the car. You'll find something. Ellison stands. That recording could be anyone. Voice pattern analysis confirms Captain Riker and Officer Cole, Miles replies. Recorded during official briefings. She plays another recording. Ellison's voice now. The checkpoint program serves 2 purposes. Public safety is what we tell the press. Property values is why we're really doing it. Keep the element where it belongs, in Westfield, not in our neighborhoods. Ellison sinks back into his chair. My Militara watch recorded our entire interaction last night, Miles explains, including unguarded comments when you thought I couldn't hear. The federal officials exchange glances. The evidence mounts beyond dispute. Finally, Miles continues, documentary evidence. The screen displays internal emails, text messages, and official memoranda. Wilson to officers. Use checkpoint quota system as discussed. Ellison wants numbers up in Westfield demographic. Department statistics appear. Arrest rates by race. search rates by neighborhood, conviction outcomes by demographic. The data reveals unmistakable discriminatory patterns. Miles explains checkpoint stops led to arrests for black drivers at 7 times the rate of white drivers for identical violations. She displays arrest reports side by side. Same violation, different races, different outcomes. But the most damning evidence comes from the program's origin. Miles says she reveals city planning documents, property developer communications with Ellison, financial records. Councilman Ellison received substantial contributions from developers looking to revitalize Eastwood Heights. Miles explains their development strategy required displacing current residents. The documents tell the story. Checkpoint harassment designed to pressure Westfield residents to leave. Property values driven down. Developers positioned to purchase at depressed prices. Civil rights violations driven by financial motivation. Miles concludes. Ellison's attorney whispers urgently in his ear. Ellison ignores him. This is fabricated, Ellison insists. A politically motivated attack. The evidence speaks for itself, Miles replies. And now the final piece. She nods to Mercer, who connects his USB drive to the system. Detective Mercer conducted his own internal investigation, Miles explains, documenting checkpoint operations from within. Mercer stands. I collected evidence of quotas targeting specific neighborhoods, documented systematic civil rights violations, recorded instructions to ignore constitutional protections. His files appear on screen. Officer performance reviews tied to Eastwood Heights arrest numbers, checkpoint schedules targeting black churches, community centers, and businesses. Most critically, Mercer continues, I discovered that complaints about checkpoint practices were systematically buried. He displays the evidence. Complaint forms marked resolved without investigation, witness statements altered, video evidence deleted. When residents attempted to use proper channels for redress, Mercer explains, the system was designed to silence them. The room falls silent as officials review the overwhelming evidence. This operation wasn't about my personal detention, Miles explains. I volunteered to test the system directly after months of intelligence gathering. My experience matched exactly what our investigation predicted. She turns to Ellison. Your checkpoint program violated the Fourth Amendment, targeted citizens by race, obstructed justice when challenged. The Justice Department official stands. We've seen enough. This evidence supports federal civil rights charges. Ellison looks around desperately. This is a misunderstanding. The program had legitimate public safety goals. The evidence contradicts that claim, Miles responds. Ellison attempts one last defense. General Miles intentionally provoked officers, created this situation. Antramin. I simply drove through a public checkpoint, Miles replies calmly. My rights were violated because of who I am and where I live. Exactly like hundreds of other citizens. She displays the final document. This is the classified Pentagon investigation authorization signed by the Secretary of Defense. Launched after multiple military personnel reported discriminatory treatment at your checkpoints. The reality of his situation finally hits Ellison. He turns to his attorney in panic. The investigation is complete, Miles announces. Federal prosecutors will now determine specific charges. The Pentagon investigator connects the final laptop to the projector. This evidence goes back 3 years. FBI agents approach Wilson Harris and other implicated officers. Justice Department officials surround Ellison. Edward Ellison, you're under federal investigation for civil rights violations, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. The lead federal prosecutor announces. Ellison stands abruptly. I need to make a statement to the press. Control the narrative. He moves toward the door. Military police stand ready. Councilman Ellison attempts to leave through the back door where military police wait. 2 months later, a community center in Eastwood Heights. Residents gather for a town hall meeting with their new police chief. Miles, now in civilian clothes, sits quietly in the back. She watches as Mercer, no longer a detective, but a community liaison, facilitates dialogue between residents and police. The new chief announces reformed policies. Body cameras always activated. Stop data publicly available. Community Oversight Board with Real Authority. After the meeting, an elderly resident approaches Miles. You're the general, aren't you? The one who brought down those checkpoints. Miles smiles. I just helped expose the truth. You did more than that. The woman says, my grandson was arrested at one of those checkpoints. Lost his scholarship because of it. Now his record's cleared and he's back in college. I'm glad to hear that. Miles responds. One thing I don't understand, the woman continues. You're a general. You could have used your rank from the beginning. Why go through the arrest? Because most people can't use rank or privilege to protect their rights, Miles explains. The system should work equally for everyone, not just those with status. The woman nods thoughtfully. My grandson wants to be a lawyer now, says somebody needs to know the law to protect the community. He's right, Miles agrees. Knowing your rights is the first step to defending them. Outside, Mercer waits to drive Miles to the airport. Returning to the Pentagon, he asks. Yes, Miles confirms. But our civil rights oversight won't end with Brookhaven. This case established a template for identifying similar patterns nationwide. The checkpoint is gone, Mercer observes as they drive past its former location. But the work continues. Miles looks out of the community, families walking freely. Residents no longer afraid of arbitrary enforcement. This is what security actually looks like, she says. Not checkpoints and harassment, just people living their lives with dignity and equal protection under the law. Did that story grab your attention? Hit that like button right now to support more hard-hitting justice thrillers like this one. Black Dignity Voices delivers powerful voice-only narratives that keep you engaged. Whether you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing, our signature storytelling style brings you into intense moments of injustice and the satisfying path to accountability. Subscribe to never miss our weekly uploads featuring gripping justice thrillers, stories of ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges, powerful narratives with unexpected twists, premium voice-only content, perfect for multitasking. Turn on notifications so you'll know immediately when we drop our next story. Your support helps us create more content that matters. Justice speaks volumes.